Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Vines Faith channel. Happy Shabbat. It's really early in the morning, and I'm going to continue to read out of the book of Ruth. We are in the Omar and coming upon the Festival of Weeks. We are in the time between Passover and the Festival of Unleavened Bread and the Festival of the First Fruits. And between those festivals and Passover is a time called the Omar, which is 7 weeks, which culminates and ends with the Festival of Weeks, when the barley harvest is changed to the wheat harvest. And today I'm going to finish the book of Ruth, and during the Festival of Weeks is when the Jewish people read the book of Ruth. And I think Christians should too. I think Christians should follow the Jewish calendar because, for example, right now in my gospel readings, I'm reading out of John chapter 7. And in John chapter 7, Jesus is at the temple during the festival of tents or booths. And during this time, there is a scene at the temple where the high priest would go get water and pour it on all the branches that people bring into the temple, or brought into the temple at the time, the Herodian temple, and put around the altar. And on the last day of that feast, in addition to pouring the water on the sticks and branches around the altar, people would march around the altar to memorialize the fall of Jericho and the Jewish people official ending of wandering around in the wilderness and having their own land. So it's all symbolic. But during this festival, 6 months before the crucifixion, Jesus stood up and made a speech. And we all study the words of Jesus, but if we don't understand the context of the culture he was in the Old Testament, we're not going to understand all the significance of everything that Jesus said. So I'm going to start reading in chapter 4, which is read during the Festival of Weeks. Then went Boaz up to the gate, and he set him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by. Now Boaz had told Ruth that he would be the next of kin to take care of her, Naomi, and he would marry her. But there was someone that had more rights in the family than he did. So, here we continue. Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land which was our brother Amalek's. And I thought to advise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. There's women weren't allowed to live on their own property or control their own property. The next male kinsman had control. If thou wilt redeem it, but if thou wiltest not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. for there is none to redeem it besides thee. So that's what they were talking about in chapter 3, being the redeeming kinsman, the person that would take the responsibility for the land and for the widow. And I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest in the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to rise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. He was prejudiced against the Moabites and didn't want to redeem it because of Ruth being a Moabite. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucketh off his shoe and give it to his neighbor. And this was a testimony in Israel. There are lots of different meanings in the Middle East about shoes and feet that are, well, that's a different video. Just FYI. Therefore, the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Amalek's, and all that was Chilion's, and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that he name the dead he not cut off from among his brethren and from the gate of the place. Ye are the witness of this day. So Mahlon was Ruth's late husband, and Elimelech was her late father-in-law, Naomi's late husband. And the other person mentioned, Chilion, was Elimelech's son, eldest son, and Mahlon's brother, who was due to inherit after Elimelech, but didn't because he passed away in Moab. And so did all three of them passed away in Moab. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord maketh the women that is come unto thee the house like Rachel, like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephrath, be famous in Bethlehem. So Rachel and Leah were sisters who married Jacob, who was also called Israel. And they were the mothers of some of the 12 tribes of Israel. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, who Tamar bore unto Judah, the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. Now Perez and Tamar were in a way foreigners, but that's a completely different video. The history of Tamar, I'll have to cover that in my adult Bible studies because it's interesting that it's mentioned here, and I'll reference back to this. So Boaz took Ruth and she was his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be familiar in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became a nurse to it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. So Obed was the grandfather of David. So David was the great-grandson of Ruth and the great-great-grandson of Naomi. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begat Herzon, and Herzon begat Ram, and Ram begat Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Nishon, and Nishon begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. So they not only give Ruth and Naomi's generations here, but they also give the generations from Boaz, who was David's great-grandfather. So how wonderful is that? So we have the lineage of David. And when you have the lineage of David, you have the lineage of Joseph, the stepfather of Jesus. And Jesus was born under the house of David, which was prophesied that the Messiah would be of the house of David. And when we're in that temple scene in John chapter 7, the priests, the high priest, the Sanhedrins, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Herodians all know this. But do they tell the people in the temple? No, they don't, because they don't want them following Jesus. They don't want them believing in Jesus. They don't want people knowing that he's the fulfillment of all the prophecies, that he is the Messiah, because they would have lost their money and their power and their control, and it would have started a new day, which needed to be started, but they didn't want it. They didn't want to lose control. The immortal souls of the people in that temple were less important to them than their power and social position, and that's human nature. But it didn't matter what they wanted. No one can stop the power of God. And I hope you all have enjoyed my reading of Ruth during the Omar. And you all have a wonderful and blessed day.